Well, hey, friends, before we jump in, I just want to remind you that this podcast is supported by listeners like you. And if you would like to be on the support team, if Clutter Free Academy has helped you make real changes in your life, in your home, in your relationships, first of all, that thrills my heart. And second of all, we would love for you to partner with us if you're able. If you're not, it is okay. We have some people who have come alongside us and we are about 3/8 of our way to our goals. So that thrills my heart. And we would love for you to be a part of that. You can just go to Kathi.link/coffee. That's KATHI.link/coffee and make a one-time donation. Or if you want to continue to partner with us, a monthly donation of even $5 helps us to be able to plan, helps us to be able to produce. It is such a gift. So again, that's Kathi.link/coffee. That link will be in the show notes. Okay, let's get on with the show. Well, hey friends, welcome to Clutter Free Academy, where our goal is to help you take small doable steps every day to live with less clutter and more life. And friends, this is going to be a weird couple of episodes, and I mean this in the best way possible because weird is my favorite. But as I was planning this episode, I knew I was having Tenneil on. Hey, Tenneil, welcome back to the
Hey,
podcast.
thank
Um,
you.
and and I was thinking, Tenneil is so great at the after, where do you put that basket and move that dresser? Like, guys, she has come and literally rearranged my house and I'm grateful for it. I invited her to. She didn't just do this in the middle of the night when she was staying here. I asked her to do this. But the way that I mostly interact with Tenneil is because she is basically my brand manager for Kathi Lipp LLC for all things Clutter Free Academy, for writing at the Red House. By the way, I was just on a radio program very early this morning, and the host, it's Carl and Crew, which is one of the biggest radio shows, Christian radio shows in the United States, said, "Who did your website?" And I was telling him about you, and Carl said, "Send me her information. I need to see if I can hire her." Like, guys, she knows what she's doing. And if you've ever peeked inside of her house like I have, she's got it going on. So I thought, what if we talked about our own homes and branding? Because I've had to go through a branding process for my home because we were doing retreats and we have a whole brand around it, writing at the Red House. But I thought, you know what? I did this when we remodeled our house in San Jose. I went through a branding process. And now you may not be, renting your house out for retreats. You may not be remodeling your house, but knowing your brand and knowing your home's brand can change everything. And I thought there is nobody better to discuss this with than Tenneil because her house has a brand. Let's be sure of it. And she knows how to brand. So, uh, Tenneil, the thought that kept coming to mind for me when I was thinking about this, if you don't decide on a purpose, your house will decide for you. Like if you are not focused on what you want your house to be serving up, your house is going to decide for you. True or false?
Absolutely true. And what is also going to happen is your wallet is going to follow that path
Right?
because you're just going
Right?
to be grasping for whatever the next thing is. And it's going to
Yeah.
develop its own identity that doesn't sit well in your heart. And you're
Mhm.
not going to feel at home in your home, and neither is anyone else.
Yeah, we have all been in that house that feels super intentional. Like the people living in that house know what they're about and what their house is about. And I have also lived in a house, and I will say to a certain extent, still live in a house where either decisions have been made for me or I have not been intentional about the decisions. Now, if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you know when we bought this house, the previous owners, who, by the way, had great taste and were delightful, left a lot of their furnishings. So, were they things necessarily I would have chosen? Not necessarily. In some cases, like some of the curtains and stuff, they did a much better job than I ever would have done. But I don't know that I would have chosen black leather couches, but I've been able to, through knowing my own style, make those work, even though those were not an organic choice. But I've also been the person who has been to somebody else's house and said, "Oh, those pillows are really cute." And I bring them to my house and yeah, they're really cute, but they're not my style. They don't reflect who I am. So where have you seen when people are they're not intentional about their house? Give me some examples of how I'm not going to say how can you tell because you're not coming in and judging people's homes. I know you're not. But how can we tell ourselves that we're
Yeah.
like, "Okay, I'm not intentional."
What I want to share, Kathy, is what people have said to me about their
Okay.
homes. So,
Yes.
people who feel comfortable around me and know what I do, they tend to
Mhm.
open up when I'm in their home about how they feel. And they will
Yeah.
say things like, I know that I want it to look fresh, but I
Mhm.
know that thing up there isn't the right place for it. Or I
Mm.
really thought that I wanted this to feel cheery, but now it just looks cheap. Like people will tell me what doesn't feel right. And
Yeah.
where people lack knowledge is like how to make it feel right. And so I don't
Mhm.
think it's in me telling you what to replace it with. I think it's in continuing the conversation more about how you wanted it to to feel. And so we end up with a home that has objects that we brought because they looked cute in the store and we never thought through what we would do them at home. And it doesn't stop with our houses, right? We have calendars packed with activities we didn't really choose, a closet
Right.
full of clothes that, like, are almost right, but not quite.
Yes. Yes.
It we get it. Homes have limits, right? Like, my home has a limit
Yeah.
of where certain walls are that I wish they weren't, but
Right.
life has its limits around us, but that doesn't mean we can't be really intentional about how we work within those limits. And so, no matter your budget, the size of the home, the people living in your home, I think you're right that if you just plan intentionally from the start, you're going to get a lot closer to something that feels the way you want it to feel.
And let's be honest, we're all midway through our house, right? Like we are living it with previous decisions. But I also think that uh you're going to be better off if you remove the things that don't really work for you instead of continuing to try to make it work. You know, you bought that cute pillow and it's like you got it home and it's like, okay, it's fine. And it's fun to have something new. I get that. But sometimes you just also have to say, it's okay to admit, you know what? That was a mistake. I'm learning. I'm not going to make the same mistake again. We're going to do something different next time. I think that those are all perfectly good things to say. So, I want a definition of brand. Like, how would you define what it means? Because brand sounds very corporate, but I think that it can really apply to all of us just living in our homes day to day. So, how would you define like your home life brand? What does that mean to you?
So it's a set of decisions you've made in advance about how you want
Mm,
it to look and feel. And that's
mm,
exactly what a corporate brand does too, right? It
yeah.
creates this sort of filter for what works and
Mm.
doesn't work because you've made a set of decisions in advance about how it's going to look and feel.
And here's how I know that this is working for me. That this is actually working for me. As you know, Tenneil, we had a party for our friend Susie here at the house. She just got her doctorate. I've got very smart friends. Tenneil, Susie, I've got some very smart friends.
Don't use that
And
in the same sentence to Neil and Susie, smart friend. Please.
I will.
Too much
I
pressure.
will cuz she would too. Anyway, so I this was good. it's the highest pressure situation for me because it's a lot of people who have not been to my house before, but they've heard about my house. They're like, "Oh, I've heard about the red house." I've So I did not feel pressure to buy one new item for my house for this party. Now, I bought a banner that said, "It's Doctor Ashley," which I thought was
Uh,
adorable and cute.
love it.
Um, I bought some disposable plates because we're just in an era where doing, 20 loads of dishes for a party does not feel like the right decision. But I didn't go and buy that cute I keep coming back to pillows because pillows are my downfall. I love a cute pillow. I didn't buy a new throw. I didn't buy a new piece of furniture. Like I have done those things in the past. And when people came to the house, they said, "This is the coziest feeling house." And I'm like, cozy is one of my words. Cozy is one of
Yeah.
my words. And then there was this really sweet guy. His name was Greg. And he said, he goes, "You've done a great job with this living room because there are some real challenges to the space." As you know, you've been to my house. Like we only have one wall in that room that you can put anything against because it's such a weirdly shaped room and there's a fireplace and it's just weird. And so like it was such an interesting observation for him to make because it is something I've struggled with for 7 years. And it just confirmed like we have right sized our living here. So, is a brand just an aesthetic?
It's not, and that's where it in the corporate world, we think of a brand as being a logo. When
Yeah.
people make that mistake, they're headed for a dive, right? And so the
Yeah.
same is true, like, if we believe that it's an aesthetic, then we believe if somebody moved us into a brand new home that had
Mhm.
all the right, finishes, that
Mhm.
everything would change, and that's not true. We would take ourselves and our stuff with it. So it's not an
Yeah.
aesthetic, right? So it's really that value system and the set of decisions that come with it. So I'm really curious, Kathy, um, going off script here, what do you feel like
Yeah.
you had to overcome to be in that place where you didn't run out and impulsively buy things or panic that you needed to rebrand your home right before?
Yeah.
So, what did you have to overcome to get there over the last 7 years?
I had to know the knowledge is deep in me that when I panic buy, it's either the best purchase I've ever made or it's the worst purchase I've ever made. And because a couple of times I'm like, I'm just going to throw money at this problem. And I buy something and I end up loving it. But 90% of the time, it's something that it solved a problem I was dealing with in my head in the short term, but it doesn't fit for my real life. So, buying a new serving dish that I think goes with the aesthetic or, uh, buying new doormats. Like I've done those things in a panic before. And so I have to live with the knowledge that, uh, when I acquire slowly, it's usually the right decision because I can now trust myself, but there are especially before a party or if I'm really tired, which, both of those things were happening, or, sometimes I get insecure and I want to impress people. These are Susie's friends. They're really smart people. Like, Susie wasn't the only doctor at that party, my friend. And, also there's a little bit of lore about me. Like one person, okay, she brought me the most beautiful dish you've ever seen. It was from Italy and it's a red house covered in snow. And she said, but she goes, I worried about giving this to you because I know you're a minimalist. I'm like, I am so not a minimalist.
Take a look
But
around. Welcome to my home.
yes, yes, I love having things around me that I love, and, like, I love this new dish, and, but I also, I didn't wanna be I don't know, I get insecure about this stuff, and so I think knowing that I get insecure, calling it out and saying, "Roger, unless you and I decide together that we absolutely need something, not just for this party, but for the long term, we're not doing it."
Ooh. So you kind
Oh,
of put some limits around, like, that dopamine shopping, the decision
yeah.
fatigue, all of the things that go into
Right.
living kind
Yeah.
of on autopilot and reactivity mode. That's really the opposite
Yes.
of intentional, isn't it? Is, like, reactivity to our feelings, our anxiety, or the mess?
Yes, and I think, especially for us cluttery people, it never occurs to us to take things away. We're just looking for that next thing that is going to sparkle in our house. And I mean, I know I am guilty of that. And the other thing I know is that I am peeling back the layers of my house. I am never going to be a minimalist. I'm always going because I love like the rabbit picture that Roger gave me for Mother's Day one year. And I don't want to put that in a drawer. I want it to be out and about. And I'll never forget, when we had this just as an Airbnb and we weren't living here, it was pretty bare bones. And my sister-in-law came to visit later. She goes, "I really liked it when it was, when there was less stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not how I live." So it's okay. But I don't want extraneous things that aren't part of the vision and don't add to it or feel cluttered.
And, what I'm hearing you say, Kathy, is you're planning for the long run of how you're going to live in the house, and
Mhm.
that's what a
Yes.
brand does. A brand doesn't wanna
Yeah.
just be popular for, like, this holiday season. They want to last,
So smart.
and what you're saying is when we make buying decisions or we have huge feelings around one evening. This party was one
Right.
evening. It was super
Right.
important, it was super great, but if you made your decisions around that evening, that's not aligning with your long-term goal for the home, and so,
Yes.
I think that's really what setting a brand for your house is about, is you want something that endures time and seasons, and even when it comes to our kids, it's easier for us, Kathy, to see on this side of parenting, right? But there was
Mhm.
a time that my home was totally driven by my littles, and
Right.
that season
Absolutely.
passes, right? And so planning for that long run of in the next 3 to 5 years, what do I need from this home? And making
Exactly.
decisions that last.
Ah, I love it. Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how your house already has a brand and what you can do to shift that to be intentional about how you're living and how you're projecting who you are to the world. We'll be right back. Friends, if you want to keep the conversation going, would you please, please, please go join 16,000 of our favorite people over in the Facebook group Clutter Free Academy? Guys, it's a free group. We talk about the podcast, we talk about decluttering, we share pictures before and after. You will be so inspired by people like you. And one of the beautiful things is you're going to feel less alone. So go over to Facebook, just type in Clutter Free Academy. You're going to answer a couple of questions because we only let real people in there and join us to make real effective changes in your home and your life. Okay, Tenneil, we are back. Your house already has a brand. So let's talk about what some of the default brands are that people accidentally adopt. And this is not to shame anybody because I think I've been I've been everything. My house has been everything. So give me some ideas.
Yeah. So we're the storage unit for everyone else's stuff.
Okay, stop. That's mean. That's just mean that you would call me out like that, friend. I don't know why you would
I
do that.
feel like
It
I'm calling myself out.
do you know the story? I don't know that you do. One day, we called our kids and we said, by June 30th, if you have stuff at our house, you need to come and get it. And if you don't get it, we're just gonna donate it or throw it away. We cannot be your storage stuff. Jeremy was there at like 11:30 on the 30th, coming and grabbing his stuff. And it really helped for us to move a few hours away. It
Right.
really, you stop, but you're storing stuff for people. And it's fine when our kids are in transition. We just don't want to be that people forever.
Yes. Okay, here's another one. we're the almost ready for company house. Like, we're gonna start inviting friends over after and then fill in the
Yes.
blank, right?
Right. After the remodel, which is 10 years off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We're the last minute scramble house.
Yeah. Yeah. The stash and dash.
This yes, and I can feel that one in my
Mm,
heart, like, the trying to
mm.
get out the door, right?
Right.
And you
And
tear the house apart just to get out the door because you don't quite have all the things you need gathered, and you went on a mad dash to find them, and if you have a bunch of little kids trying to get out the door before school, we see you, and this too shall pass,
yes,
and
it
stay with
will.
us here because we will help you develop some systems. You don't have to live like that forever.
Exactly. Uh,
And then,
go ahead.
um,
Yeah.
this next one is for me. We're the good intentions house, and this is where you have a lot of projects started but not finished. And we are DIY chronic around here. So, like, when people come back to my home a year later and the same thing is still untouched,
Right.
it's
Can,
hard to deny it. So, we've adopted it as part of our brand. We give you
okay.
permission to be a work in progress.
A work in progress. Yes. I I can't tell you how many years ago I bought paint for the yellow and the blue room, and it is still sitting in our garage. And I said, "Roger, 2026, this has got to be the year. Either that or we just say it's never going to happen." These are our options, cuz it's been light blue in that blue room, like baby blue, and that's like my least favorite color ever. It's got
You
to
didn't
change.
tell me that when I was there, or that's when I would have done in the middle of the night.
See, I just need to invite you back. That's it. Okay. So, how can we change our brand, our intention without a remodel? Because most of
Yeah.
us are not right there for it.
So, it's developing a direction, right? Because we said a
Mhm.
brand is a set of decisions and values. So, we have to start
Yeah.
heading in the direction of those decisions and values. And so that may not mean flying Tennille to your house to paint in the middle of the night. That might just mean
I am
um
this close to booking you a ticket, friend. Like, I can't even tell you.
it may mean hanging 4 bags by the door that have
Hmm.
labels on them, like
Yeah.
return, take to school, right,
Yeah.
donate, or something like that. And so it's really setting up kind of that decision-making process for yourself so that you're
Hmm.
making it from a system rather than from an emotion.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. I love that. Yeah. So, how How do we how do we keep from living in a fantasy when it comes to changing it?
I think one thing is we just had a fun time naming what some brands default brands are. I think go
Yeah.
ahead and say what yours is. I can say
Mhm.
we are the unfinished DIY project home
Mhm.
and in comfort, right? I'm not
Right.
trying to pretend anymore that we're going to get
Yeah.
that done next weekend, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that reality check with yourself that says,
Yes.
like, Kathy, you mentioned you have only one wall in the living room that you can put
Mhm.
anything up against. And
Mhm.
it's a reality that that wall is also intentionally supposed to be a walkway in your house. Like that one
Yes.
wall is shared with a walkway to the
Yes.
upstairs.
It's
And
crazy.
yeah, and so it's easier to state the physical limits of our home than it
Mhm.
is our emotional limits or the limits we
Right.
have with our people. But I think
Mhm.
really jotting those down could be super helpful and saying,
Yeah.
given my reality, how do I want my home to look and feel? Then you're no
Mhm.
longer playing this fantasy that if you were just plopped into a brand new home with a place for everything, that life would suddenly run on routine because it wouldn't. And so I
It
think
wouldn't.
embracing your reality and saying, since this is my reality, here's how I want it to feel could be really
Yeah. I'm going to encourage listeners to do just a simple exercise because I think this is so clarifying, to be able to say, um, to just pick a few words. I'm gonna suggest 3 words of how you want your home and your life to feel. And I want you to think about it in this season. This may not be forever, You may not be the unfinished DIYer forever, but maybe you will be, and that's okay because your home is beautiful, but you're somebody who likes to change things up. It's not a bad thing that you're the unfinished person. It's like you're experimenting, you're doing new things. I'm going to give you my 3 words. Uh, I want my home to uh, feel cozy. I want it to feel clean and I want it to feel restorative. Uh, and that has informed some of our decisions because it's a season right now. In my bedroom, I have a hospital table that I work at, do crafts at. Do I want a hospital table in my home for the rest of my life? I really, really don't. But right now, my home is restorative. And that is what restores me. Uh, Having good food, we just made uh, a vegetable soup from leftover vegetables. And for the party, somebody brought us a lemon and rosemary sourdough loaf.
Mm.
And we had that for lunch yesterday. It was one of the most restorative meals I've ever had. It was so simple, but that's how I want my home to feel, not just for myself, but for other people. So in this season, Roger and I we're building a home that feels cozy, clean, and restorative. And I think in this season is really important to say
I do too.
because it's not gonna be that way forever, right?
Right, and it doesn't say we're living in a home that is cozy, clean, and
Right.
restorative. It says we're building a home that
Mhm.
feels these things, right? So it's a
Yeah.
constant effort and process. It's not we never
Yes.
hit the deadline. We never reach the goal.
Right, right, because our home is always a work in progress. So I'm going to encourage all of you to think about some words. Maybe it's calm, welcoming, practical, simple, flexible. I think that's a great word. Bright, playful, uncluttered. Maybe you're fancy. I've never lived in a fancy home, but I know some people have, and that's important to them. Or, it's sleek or it's minimalist. Like it doesn't matter what it is, but make sure it's realistic for you and it's aspirational that you're building to. Okay, we're going to come back next week and we're going to turn those words into pre-decisions, color, style, spending, and a yes and no filter. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun with that. Tenneil, thanks so much for being on today. I so appreciate you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
And friends, thank you for being here. You are a part of what we do. You've been listening to Clutter Free Academy. I'm Kathi Lipp. Now, go create the clutter free life you've always wanted to live.